Hello, everybody. This is Anthony for Investors Underground. Today, I have the opportunity to speak with Jack Kellogg. He made his mark as a superstar OTC trader, having exceeded $10 million in profits, and he continues to expand his playbook and trading goals. You can follow him on Twitter at jackaroo_trades. Hi, Jack. Thanks for taking the time to be here and to speak with me today.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to actually get to talk to you. There's a lot that I want to ask you, and I'll probably dig pretty deep into the OTC stuff, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, for sure. I love getting more eyes on the OTCs. We always need more volume over there, 'cause sometimes it can be really dead.
That's one of the questions that I wanted to ask you about. But just to back up, I'm curious, where did you first get your start in trading? What piqued your interest about the stock market?
I think it was back in late 2016. I had saved up some money from doing a valet job over the last few years. I think, 18 or 19 years old. And I just wanted to get invested because I kind of saw a lot of my friends, they'd make whatever, 3, 5, 10 grand, and they just go blow it on a new car or whatever it was. And I was like, I could use this 10 grand to make more money and be able to have more freedom and be able to do more things that I want than just going and spending all my money on one specific thing and then just being left with no money after that. And I was gonna get started with Robinhood because I had no clue about anything. And luckily I bumped into one of my childhood friends at the gym, and he was telling me how he was starting to day trade. And I was very interested in what he had to say about that. And I was like, wow, you can actually make 100% in one day or 300% or whatever it could be based on how these stocks are moving. The only thing I knew about the market was you have to invest like Warren Buffett, and you put your money there and you park it. And then in 10 years, you look back and it's 10x, 5x, whatever it is.
So, in terms of motivation for you, was it primarily financial based, or were you also interested in sort of the challenge of trading as well? Was it all finance based for you?
No, I would say it's maybe only 20 or 30% finance from when I started, and still it's only 20 or 30% finance for me. I'd say just how hard it is to be a trader. Like, the saying, like 90, 95% of people lose money. So just something that is so cool, being able to like watch these stocks trade and be able to trade your money and make pretty much as much as you want based on the liquidity, of course. But it's pretty much a zero sum game where you can just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and really pushing yourself to do just these amazing things that you would have never thought when you're like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And here you are a decade later, and you're really just making crazy trades and just being like, wow, like I just thought it was so fascinating what you could do with the market. And the challenge was just so hard that I just fell in love with it.
Were you thinking like this could be a really cool side hustle, or were you thinking this could be actually something way bigger than that?
At first, my whole idea was I never really wanted like a full-time job, going into the office at 9 a.m., leaving at 5 p.m. with the same paycheck, the same coworkers. So you can't really travel. You're there every single day. I thought that it would be cool to be a firefighter they have like 24 hours on, 24 hours off, 72 on, 48 off, whatever it's going to be. So the whole idea for me was to be able to kind of trade those days that I'm off and do the firefighting and have multiple things to do, as well as like own some real estate. So I was trying to be like multi-dimensional, but then there just came a point where I saw like some traders making 50, 100,000, 30,000 in a day. And back then in like 2018, 2019, those numbers were absolutely insane. Like if someone was making 30,000 in 2018, you were a god. And now it's like in 2021, it's like if you're not making at least 300K, you're not a god. It's just crazy to see like that last couple of years how it's came. But I just feel like I hit like the perfect time to get into it, 2017, 2018, 2019. And then you grow your account a small amount, but it's still enough. Then when 2020 and 2021 comes around and the market just goes bananas, you really have the opportunity to just do crazy things. So
And you seem particularly motivated. I mean, you had mentioned you're interested in firefighting, you're interested in real estate, um, sort of that hunger, that thirst, that motivation. Would you say that carried into your trading as well? Like, did you find that when you first started trading, like you put a lot of time, energy, focus on getting better?
yeah, I would say that was definitely it. Compared to watching some of my friends, how much effort like they put in. They would have like hobbies, right? They'd have hobbies of golfing, playing poker. They all had girlfriends back in like that 3 year span, when I was just grinding. And the only thing that I did was just learn trading and trade. And I didn't really even allow myself to like have fun outside of trading, which wasn't the healthiest. But it definitely put me in the position to just do the best that I could over the last couple of years. Whereas I think the people that didn't really put in their 110% effort didn't do as well. They still did really good, but I wanted to go that extra level just to push myself for the challenge of it.
So it sounds like you put in a lot of time, sweat, and focus into trading, and it seems to have paid off for you, which is great. Um, but would you say that it was constant success right off the bat, or did you face your fair share of challenges in the market? Any account blowups or anything like that? Huge drawdowns?
Um, I didn't particularly have like a huge like I've had times where I lose 10, 20, or 30% of my account. I've never lost like half my account or 60 or 70 or 80% of my account ever. But I would say the first year, like I lost a couple thousand over maybe like 6 months of live trading, a few months of paper trading, just the 2000 the first year. And then the next year in 2018 was when I started full-time trading. And I would do really good, and then I'd take a huge loss and I'd wipe away all my gains that I made for 3 months because um, my risk to reward was off, right? So I was stubborn and I would make small gains. I wouldn't let my winners run. I wouldn't add to my winners like Nate always talks about. I would just enter a position, it'd go down 10, 15%. I'd take my $300 or $400, and then a trade would come around that would go against me, and then I would add in my position, add more, add more. And now I have a big position and it's going against me by 30%. And then I would lose like 2 or 3K. And there was this one instance on Turtle Beach where I was shorting it in May 20th, maybe of 2018. And it had already gone from like 2 to 10 or 12 or something. And it closed weak the day before. So I was like, all right, I'm going to wait for a pop into the resistance. I'm going to short it and I'm going to fade this back down 10%. And I started in, and then it just kind of kept grinding up. And then it broke through the previous day's high, which should have been my end all be all cut for maybe like 5 or 6, 7, $800, whatever it was. There's a couple trades, a couple wins, but instead I held on to it. And it went from like 12 to 19 with zero pullback. And I think I was down maybe like 10 or 12K at the top, but it was just such a sickening feeling. And then it came back down to like 15, and I covered for a 7,500 8K loss. And that one was just so demoralizing because I actually could have lost everything if it went to like 20 or 30 and didn't pull back. It was a lower float, so could have blown up everything there. And after that, I had to take a 3 month break and kind of go back to work, save up the money that I lost and all that kind of stuff.
Wow. Yeah, that's I can imagine very hard to deal with. And I mean,
Yeah,
props for you for just continuing to stay in the game and grind, and like you said, even go back to work. Do what you have to do, and
yeah.
improve. Take the time off, and not just come back and try to revenge trade, or go borrow money and revenge trade. How did you recover from that, other than taking time off? I mean, were you also studying during that time? Were you looking at charts, or was it mostly just like a complete shut off of the markets for you?
Um, I would say maybe the first like week was a complete shut off. And actually, I did come back like a few days later when I saw a good setup, and I did take another trade and I lost like another few thousand. So I did revenge trade. But then it was just like, all right, like then that was like the last dagger. So I think I had drawn down like 10 or 11K by then. And then I was down on the year, maybe like I had made like a 4 or 5 thousand in April, and then I lost all that plus some, obviously. And yeah, I just had to deal with it. And the first week or two I took off, and I was actually working a ballet at the Travelers Championship in Connecticut. I was doing that valet golf tournament, and it was like the hours were like 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then sometimes I'd work another shift from 5 to 11 at a restaurant after I do that valet. So it was hard to kind of keep up with the market, and that's what I wanted, just to work hard and kind of distract myself. But after I got done with that 1 or 2 week span, then I got back to studying and talking with other traders and telling them what I did and how can I fix this. And I really just studied and studied, and I realized that with a small account, I have to go long first. I have to build up profits going long, because with shorting, there's fees, and also it can go against you however much percent, and 1,000, 2,000%. And just that feeling plus the small account, it's very hard to short with. I think that beginners should start with going long. And then I just kind of learned, and I learned from this guy out in Michigan named Dom Master Mateo, and he kind of took me under his wing. He was only up maybe like 20 or 30 grand at the time, but he kind of showed me what he was doing, and I saw his risk management and how he cut losses quickly and how he added to winners and moved risk up and had a trailing stop and just milked the play up and then made sure to cut his losses quick. So it was the opposite of what I was doing, where I would have small gains and huge losses. He would have small losses and huge gains. And then once I figured that step out, I still picked like good ideas from the beginning. I still knew how to like execute on trades, but once I figured my risk management out, then I was able to be consistently profitable that September of 2018. And that month I made 2,500 the first week, 2,500 the third week, for third and fourth week, and I ended the month up like exactly 10K, and it was all pretty much $500 days, and it was super consistent. So after that month there, that's when I was able to gain some confidence and just keep it going from there, steady till till 2019, where I had a couple big months there that really gave me the propeller to start 2020 with more capital and take advantage of that market.
That's great. You figured out your risk management. You went and networked and met another trader, learned what you could learn, and came back and bounced back. That's actually really inspiring. I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of people listening, and I know myself personally, like, drawdowns hurt. There's no way around it, and everyone has to deal with them in their own way. It really comes down to whether or not you learn from it, or you just continue doing the same old thing over and over, expecting different results. For you, sounds like you managed to fix that, which is great.
Yeah, I had made the same mistake a couple times before, but on a smaller scale, right? So where I'd make a grand, then I'd lose a grand in one trade, or make 2 grand, then lose 2 grand in one trade. It didn't really hurt till it didn't really stick with me till I saw that bigger loss, and then like it just it made me really realize like the bigger loss kind of made me feel a lot more, and then learn from there. Whereas like if you're not taking like that big loss, whatever that number is for you, like that could be $500 or whatever it could be, that loss that really just messes up with your emotions, that's when you're going to make the change.
Yeah, absolutely. And when did you find that things really clicked for you in trading? Was it pretty much that experience, or was it there
Yeah.
another time when you realized, wow, I can actually keep doing this and maybe turn this from maybe a hobby or something that I'm really interested in into an actual full-blown career?
Yeah, I would say after that after that month in September where I made 10 grand in 2018, then that next month in October I made maybe like 6 or 7K, and then after that I was like, wow, all you have to do is really make 500 a day and make 10 grand a month, and you can make 100K, 125K a year.
Hmm.
And that's just like, that's really good numbers for a lot of jobs. As growing up, I always thought that if you could make 100K a year, like that was phenomenal money. And most people are just making 50, 60, 70, 80, at least from the town. I'm from a small town in Connecticut.
Hmm.
Um, and that's like, if my friend's parents were making over 100 grand a year, like they had freedom and they had the things that they wanted, etc. And if you were making less than that, then I didn't. So that's all I was striving for, was just like making 100K a year. And once I did that, I realized that I could do it full time.
When did you get interested in penny stocks and OTCs? Was that pretty much what you were trading at the time, or were you also looking at some of the larger names as well? Because I know you had, you know, great success with OTCs and are very very knowledgeable about that. So when did that start?
That started, I mean, it pretty much started from the beginning. Like whenever I would touch an OTC, I would be able to just read the tape better and I'd be able to make a better trading plan. And most of the time I'd come out with a very small loss if I was wrong. And I was just able to control my risk because with the OTC, like they're manually market maker, of course. So they're very slow to see what's going on. So you have that extra 5, 10 seconds to make that 1 second decision on a NASDAQ. And you have that extra 5 to 10 times. And I think that I was just able to make those reactions. And with the NASDAQs and small caps, I would just didn't really have that time, and I knew there was a lot more competition in those, and the OTCs were just like this nice little quiet thing, and it made sense in my brain, like that's where you start, because that is like the worst of the worst. And it's, you got your small caps, you got your OTCs, small caps, mid caps, large caps, and then you got like Apple, you got Tesla, the blue chips. And it just makes sense to slowly work yourself up as you become a better and better trader and expand your knowledge, rather than if I started in small caps or mid caps, you never really get that chance. Why would you be a mid cap trader and then go back to small caps and OTCs? You have to like work your way up the pyramid to the top, where they're trading, you know, billions and billions and billions of dollars, and all the hedge funds are, and they got these crazy algos and all that stuff. I'm starting with something that's maybe trading a couple $1 million dollar volume, and they're just like me. I'm competing against people that are like me, or whatever, people maybe like a garbage truck driver who's just buying a penny stock, or whoever it is, compared to these Wall Street hedge fund sharks that are just looking to take all the little guys' money.
Absolutely. And one of the things about OTCs is they sort of have this reputation of like inherent risk, right? And there's different tiers to them and sort of warnings that are given for these types of stocks. And for anybody who's listening that might not be so familiar with OTCs, I'm kind of curious to get your perspective on, you know, whether you were worried about some of the caveats, you know, and the sort of issues, the promotions that happened, the bankruptcies of all these different warnings and tiers with OTCs. Was that something that worried you at all when you were going long the stocks, or did you approach it in a different kind of way?
Um, I kind of heard that, but that almost helped me because I went into the trade more scared that I'm trading this crap, and I know it's worthless, right? So I'm just trading it, and once like that trend shifted, I'd get out. And a lot of the times that I noticed with the OTCs, if they were going to do something very sketchy, then it almost always have like a weak close. Like somebody kind of knew all the time if something bad was going to come out after hours or whatever it was going to be. So I'd say I actually never got caught in a halt on an OTC going long, which which is good. And I pretty much have caught like 50% of the CEs going short. Just I do a lot of like a quick look, like does it have a stock promotion flag? Does it have the CE? Does it have dark and defunct? And then you kind of get an idea of what you're trading. And there is some good OTCs. Like we saw a lot of OTCs actually uplist to the NASDAQ. Actually, one that's been pretty active this year, SBFM. I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably traded that one. I think that one was a pretty active trader the last like 3 months ago. That was actually an OTC. I remember trading it at like a couple cents. So just a little interesting tidbit there.
Um, you had mentioned, certain flags, dark and defunct, things like that. Where were you getting your research, and where would you research the OTCs?
I use this website called otcmarkets.com, and you can just type in the ticker, and it also has like filings, and it's a really nice website for OTCs. It'll show you the most dollar volume OTC traded on the day. You can do a bunch of scans on it. I actually knew a bunch of people who used to just scan with OTC markets for filings, but now you have like the BAMSAC and all that stuff. But it's not a bad website at all, and that's the where I would go.
Great. And for researching some of the OTC names, did you find yourself doing any of the like fundamental analysis, taking a look at share structure, who the executives were, what their filing, their numbers were, things like that? Or were you more interested in like the technical analysis and chart pattern setup for you?
Yeah, so for me, it was mainly the chart pattern and the trade setup, but I did go off on a couple benders where I would just try to figure out like a lot of information. And I did get into a couple trades that I saw something in the filings that I thought would make it go up. And it just turns out taking like 6 to 12 months. And since it's an OTC, it's probably like you're probably right on your position anyway. So it was very draining to swing trade some of these, just if you kind of saw something in the filings where I could just wait for the next OTC with volume and hop on that and make my money and then exit. And that's where I did a lot better was just trading the OTCs with the framework and the technical analysis. But I did do my fair share of researching it because I thought it was a way to make more money. So of course I'm going to do some research, but that's about it.
Were you able to trade the OTC stocks on any given broker, or did you find that certain brokers were better suited to trading these types of stocks?
Yeah, so you have your direct access brokers with DAS like Centerpoint, Cobra, Guardian, Speed Trader, etc. And those are garbage for OTCs because you need that. If you trade per share and you're trading 3 million shares and you're paying like 0.002 or 0.001, whatever it is, like you're going to spend a ton in commissions. So you can't use one of those brokers. And then you have brokers like TD Ameritrade, which I know a lot of people use TD Ameritrade, but I don't particularly like them because of the level 2 on TD Ameritrade. I actually go with E-Trade. E-Trade has a nice level 2, and E-Trade has some problems sometimes, like sometimes stuff will freeze or whatever it is. But for the most part, I've done all my trading with them on the OTC side, and it's been good. And then you also have options like Fidelity, but I've just stuck with my E-Trade, and that's been the best for me. And also my friends that trade OTCs, most of them use E-Trade, and a couple of them use Thinkorswim because we just don't have that. We can't trade per share. And also, I don't really like the way that DAS portrays an OTC, especially like the really cheap ones. Like if it's below 10 cents, you can't really see the level 2 because you have like the amount of shares, right? And if somebody's bidding like 20 million shares on this OTC, it'll be like 20 mil and then all these zeros, whereas E-Trade will just show you 200K. And you'll just see how many thousands are on it. So I thought that was way better on my eyes to read the tape.
Good to know. And when you're trading OTCs, do you also have similar like issues with borrowing if you wanted to short, or can you even short OTCs? Is it, how similar is it to some of the type of momentum stock situation for shorting?
Yeah, so I do short OTCs. I don't short them too much. I had a bunch of OTC shorts last year because everything went from 5 cents to $5. But most of the time I'm not shorting any OTCs, especially I won't even really consider something a short unless it's at least like 50, 60, 70 cents, and I think I can pull back 50%. Just because it's going to be hard to execute, and it's going to cost you a lot borrowing a ton of shares and paying the per share. on everything, as well as the liquidity issues you have, plus the chance that it skips up and it's only at 70 cents, so who knows how high it can go. And so I don't short too many OTCs, but most of the brokers that I named before, they do offer OTC trading, so I'll short the OTCs there, not at E-Trade. E-Trade won't allow it.
So, do you tend to be primarily a long bias trader when it comes to the OTCs? And are you mostly intraday, or do you ever swing some of these for a couple days?
Yeah, so I'm primarily long bias on the OTCs, and I think right now my overall profits are like 60% long, 40% short, and so it's just a little bit more towards towards the long side. I was more short bias in 2018 and 2019 on the OTCs, but then when stuff just started going, when I saw like multiple 1,000% moves, I was like, I got to figure out like how to long these. And I did in 2019, a few months, I was also heavily long biased in 2018, but it just depends on the market sentiment. Like right now in OTCs, I'd be short biased, and the best trades will probably be on the short side because it's just not a hot market. So if you get a runner, it's kind of a blessing, and it's hard to predict that it's going to run because the OTCs are so dry. So we had NWBO was an interesting one this year. It went from like 80 cents to like 2 or 220, pretty decent volume. And it had an awesome first red day where it went from like $2 all the way down to like 40 or 50 cents. Unfortunately, I was traveling that day, so I missed that. But that was probably the best OTC trade I saw of the year, based on you probably could have gotten like 1 or 200,000 shares and made a nice chunk of change there if you traded it and had patience.
What do you consider to be like a plus style trade for you? What gets you excited? Like the stock you had mentioned, what gets you really pumped up to go long a stock?
Yeah, so my favorite setups they're all they all have something in common. This is kind of what I like to see. So you have like an initial daily spike, right? It comes down, it goes sideways. Maybe you have another daily spike, and then it kind of goes sideways even closer to that high, and just creates like this level on the monthly chart, on the weekly, on the daily chart. So it's a very key level. And then on top of that, you want some type of catalyst, whether it's going to be the marijuana stocks, whether it's going to be EV, whether it's going to be Bitcoin stocks, whatever it's going to be, because you guys see in small caps, I'm sure most of you guys are small cap or mid cap, large cap traders on this channel, but when you have that world event, whether it's even the oil, you have these sympathy names. And when you have that sympathy, that's when you see the best moves. So if it has some type of big sympathy, world news, and it has like this huge chart that's been developing for months, and then the last thing is volume. You want to see volume, and you want to see billion, 2 billion shares, something crazy. And that offers the best trades. And also another quick thing is you want to look at the history of the stock. What has it done in the previous, weeks, months, and seen how it's traded. If it's just something that like you see on the daily that like wicks and the daily candles are very like, I just call those daily candles ugly, where it's like very wicky and it's kind of like all over the place. But if you have like the nice solid body candles and everything is very solid and very visually appealing, that's usually the best trades, because I'm able to sit in it, and I understand that it's not really going to do any type of weird wiki stuff. And if it does, then I get out.
Great. Yeah. So chart, catalyst, volume, all things that you're looking for a setup that you're
Yeah.
interested in.
Yep.
Yeah. And I had a question about trade management as well, because notoriously some of the OTCs tend to be quite volatile, where you can be up, thousands in a day, could drop, 50, 60% overnight. So how do you approach trade management with the OTC names?
Yeah. So you did ask if I'm swing or intraday trade. So I'll kind of get back to that and loop that in with this question. So I do both. I intraday and I swing trade. And what I like to do is kind of have two separate positions. So when you're trading it intraday, you can size up more on it, I think, because you can get out whenever you want. And there's no pre-market, of course, no pre-market trading with OTCs. So if it's starting to gap down, you're pretty much screwed, and you have to wait till market open, and everybody's waiting for market open, and you're going to get probably a bad fill. So I do bigger size on intraday basis, and then I do like swing trading stuff because OTCs, they have sick gap ups, and when the market's hot. So I'll just do that with smaller size and kind of treat it as two different positions almost.
Okay, yeah. And do you tend to scale in to your positions and scale out, or do you tend to find that you're more like you'll take one big position and then you see how it goes, cut it or leave it?
Yeah, so it all depends on the volume, but if I'm looking at something, I'll usually at least take a starter like at the open. And then if you can kind of see on the bid, like if someone's on the bid and you're having a nice tight spread, then I'll scale into that trade. But if I just take it at the open, maybe it goes up or down a little bit and there's nobody really there, like I won't scale into that trade. I'll just take a small gain or a small loss. I'll take a trade, and if it's like it's confirming and there's a lot of heavy buying and a lot of bid support and there's a lot of bid soaking, then I'll scale into that trade, and then I'll also scale out of it into the pops, because it just is it's too easy not to, because you can see like on the tape, and you just don't want to overstay too much, because if you overstay, then you potentially could give all your profits back, as well as sometimes there'll be a harsh dip. So if you didn't lock any in into the spike, and there's a harsh dip below VWAP, or just a harsh dip wherever it is, and you might be tempted to sell your entire position. But if you'd locked some in, maybe you're thinking about an add into that dip instead. So I like to always lock in along the way, which gives me the ability to add and stay comfortable through the pullbacks, because I have that realized cushion.
Yeah, you had mentioned that you also swing trade some of these. Do you think about different like price target or profit target levels for your intraday and your swing trade? Or, do you think about those ahead of time, or do you just wait and see in the moment as things are moving, and maybe are you adjusting your swing position and your intraday position accordingly?
Yeah, so for the swing position and the intraday position, like kind of getting a target, is I'll look back on the stock and see what kind of range it did when it got volume before, when it had a previous similar pattern or a previous similar ticker. I'll kind of just get an idea there, like kind of what to expect. And that helps me stay patient for that level. And with swinging stuff, like I'll usually sell a good portion into the gap up if I'm taking a swing, and then I'll just kind of rebuy if it holds. But there's a lot of action at the open, and I'd usually just take like my best trading came when I was swinging OTCs overnight, and I was gapping stuff up, and like four out of five of them, 7 out of 8 of them were gapping up. You just take that 10%, and if you've got like 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, you're starting the day up like 50%. And then you have that cushion to then scale into other intraday setups.
Kind of notoriously, OTC traders kind of get maybe a negative stigma for like viewing these stocks and their positions as lottery tickets and just waiting until they go to the moon kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
Whereas it sounds like much more nuanced in terms of where you're actually taking profits and not viewing these just as like, lottery tickets or maybe gambling that it's going to go to some astronomical number. So could you maybe talk about like the importance of viewing these as maybe like trades and where to take profits versus holding forever, and maybe being able to separate yourself from the other types of OTC traders who might be losing money?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of people think that if they're buying like a sub penny stock or a penny stock or a 2 cent stock or whatever it is, they kind of like think in their head like, oh, what if this goes to 10? What if this goes to 20 cents, 30 cents, $1? And they get these unrealistic expectations that you're trying to catch the next, HKD or whatever it is. That's a NASDAQ stock, but of course, um, and for me, it's just I'm going to trade the price action while the volume's there, and I'm going to trade it like I would trade a small cap or whatever it's going to be. And I'm going to lock in along the way. I'm going to take my profits. And if it keeps going up, sure, I'll keep like trading it in and out as long as there's volume there in range. But once that volume and range goes away, I'm not going to sit there holding a bag thinking that this is going to hold and go higher. And I think that a lot of people just have like these unrealistic expectations on OTCs, which they do insane moves, but it's very hard to capitalize on that move. And if you just trade it and take your profits, it's going to add up to the same amount, if not more, than getting lucky one time on a 20,000% mover.
Sort of on this theme of like outsmarting the crowd, do you think that it is potentially a trap to read too much into the filings and sort of get trapped into believing everything that the company might be saying or alleging they're going to be able to do, and end up holding a bag?
Yeah, so I'd say like I don't even do that much research on the fundamentals because I don't want to be sold some bullshit by a snake oil salesman. I'm just going to trade the price action, and if the price action is garbage and they have a great story, I don't care that much. Like maybe I'll take the story into 10% consideration that, oh, if this catches a bid again, this might be a big one because it has a good story. But if it's a garbage stock with a ton of volume and it's moving a lot, I'll also take that 10% into consideration that this might have a chance to get halted because it's super sketchy. But I'll just trade the price action, and I'll prefer that one because I'm able to trade that price action way better.
Yeah, and how do you deal with the sketchiest of the sketchy, like the bankrupt companies or whatever warnings there are for a particular stock? Do you take that into consideration, and do you study these types of warnings so that you can trade it better, or do you avoid them altogether?
Yeah, so I'm sure you guys know like HTZ and LKNCY. Those are two that come to my mind. Like those are both bankrupt stocks that used to be on the NASDAQ and they got demoted to the OTCs. So first things first, like all the hedge funds that were holding, they're not allowed to hold OTC stocks. So you get an absolutely epic panic when they get to the OTC. And that's something that I look to kind of short, even if it's down already like 50, 60, 70%, like they usually will tank a bit more depending on where they open. But then I usually I watch them and I'll actually buy them because you see them start to get walked up and these OTC traders come in. So LNKCY was an absolute phenomenal trader the last few years whenever that thing gets volatility. Right now it's a lot more choppy because it's really tied to whatever China does. But back in, I'm not sure when it was, I think it was 2020. I think it was August 2020, a couple of years ago. It had an awesome like 3-day run to 6 and then came all the way back down to like 4-ish. And it was just so fluid. And it traded so good. And I was just basically just trading the price action.
What other traps do you think maybe some OTC traders might fall into and find themselves losing money trading OTCs?
Um, I'd say the number one is definitely what we already went over, which is just thinking that they're buying a lottery ticket and not really taking like the OTC trade serious. Because like I'm sure a lot of people, like I said, are small cap traders, whatever. Just take that same risk management into your OTC trading and don't just think that it's an options trade, right? A lot of people think it's an options trade where I'm just going to buy like a few grand. If it goes to zero, it is what it is. Treat it more as you're going to treat your small cap and regular day trading on some of these OTCs when they get volatile, because it's not like that, and that's not how you should treat it.
And I guess one last question on this sort of theme of like outsmarting the crowd. OTC names are sort of notoriously targeted for pump and dump schemes. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how do you think about those? Do you even care who's behind them, or is that something that you track? And how do you trade them? Or do you just stay away from them altogether?
Yeah, so I don't log the pumps. Like the blatant pumps are very obvious. the way that they're trading, like it's just green candle gap, green candle gap, green candle gap. And like the range is, you can see like the manipulation. And there's some OTCs that are green candle gap, green candle cap, green candle cap, but they're not as blatant as like a pump. They usually have low volume because nobody's buying their crap nowadays, especially. So I'll basically just wait and just short them. And it's hard to get shares of them, very, very hard. So it's never like a big trade for me, but I've had a few trades this year where it's just an extra, padding on my year just to go short these. And I usually just swing for as long as I can because they go back down to where they started. And you just position yourself where if you're going to hold it, expect it to go against you and never put more than, like the rule of thumb is never put more than 10% of your account into it if you're going to short it, because you need to give it room to go up. And make sure you're not shorting also at the beginning of the promotion. You want it to be already extended like a few 100%.
OTCs kind of get this, I don't know, reputation for being really hot for a couple months and then go cold for the rest of the year. Would you agree
Yeah.
with that? And if that's true, then what do you do when the OTC market goes cold? Where do you find opportunities?
Yeah. So I'm not 100% like an OTC trader. That's where I started. I stuck to that for at least like 6 months to a year to grow my account initially from small account to my first 100K was all OTCs. And then after that, they went cold. So I started learning new things. And I was also shorting a few OTC pump and dumps in that meantime. Like you'll still get pumps within the year, like maybe one a quarter, whatever it's going to be. And those were nice. Like I said, nice wallet pads. And then I spent the rest of my time learning these small caps. And I'm not a very good like daily small cap trader like I am for OTCs. Like if there's a basket of OTCs running, I can just wake up and trade them and usually make money 80% of the time unless I'm trading like an idiot. Whereas small caps, they're moving a lot pretty much every single day, and I can't wake up and make money every single day like some of these small cap traders. So for me, it was also learning small caps and learning how to pick the best opportunities on small caps and also waiting for that OTC craze to come and then making sure I'm focused there from at my desk, 7:30, 8 a.m. all the way till 5, 6 p.m. during that 4, 6, 6 week hot phase. And I can make a majority of my profits based on those months. And in 2019, the month was February for me. Like that was a very, very good OTC month. We had a bunch of runners. I just focused in on that, and that was over half my profits on the year. And then in 2020 was actually, I'm not sure how much I made in 2020 on OTCs, but it was probably, it was actually 2020 was like the only year where I was pretty much active throughout the entire year, whether it was a special situation on small caps or an OTC craze. So it was a very active year. And then in 2021, January and February were bonkers, and then cooled off for the rest of the year. We haven't really seen any OTC action since last February on OTC. It's been a lot slower. There was a little bit of action actually in September of 2021. We had a few runners, and now I think it's kind of looking good towards the end of the year and into next year, especially if we keep up with this market bounce. All these OTCs are really beaten down. So I'm just sitting and waiting for them to, a lot of OTCs to get volume and start to develop some patterns. So I'll be watching them going into the new year.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll be looking as well to see what OTCs do. And you had touched on sort of small caps, and so I wanted to talk about your evolution from OTC trader to moving more into the small caps, the momentum type of names. Can you talk a little bit about that process and how you learned about trading the smaller cap momentum names and what that's been like for you?
Yeah, so excuse me. The main thing on small caps, I would say, is I'm very good at like a specific thing on small caps, and that is just when there's a theme. I'm good at kind of finding that backside on a lot of the movers after they go on multi-day runs. So, like I said, I'm not good at showing up and just trading the daily gappers and making money. Like through my 5 years, I've never really had any consistency on that. Sure, I'll have a good win here when I'm bored or a small win there. And I am able to make a little bit of money there, but I'm not ever able to find a true consistency and a true confidence to be like, okay, I think this is going to do that, then this, then this. With the multi-day runners, I'm able to watch them develop. So we have like our AMC, our GME, and those were huge ones last year for me. But even to begin with, when I found out I was good at it was during the COVID stock run in March of 2022 with CODX, APT, mRNA, all these stocks that went on these NIO. They were fantastic trades. After they go on a 2 or 3 day green run, it kind of fits the same OTC style of trading that I do, waiting for that momentum change on the daily chart and capturing that first red day. So I was able to do really, really well in March of 2020 on those tickers. And then I kind of just went from there. I just kind of waited for the best opportunities on small caps when you get those huge multi-day runners. And I was able to capitalize pretty well on GME and AMC were huge for me. And actually, something that I did want to get into a little bit was I just took a new biggest loss by a little bit on HKD. And that one was just insane. I'm sure you saw that, but it went from like, I think it was at like $12 a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago, not months ago, crazy. And now it hit like 2,500. So that was a nice multi-day runner. And they did a really good job at like trapping along the way. And I took a loss Friday, Monday, and yesterday on it. Today I didn't touch it. And the volume, like it proved to be a good trader that day when it went from 80 to 120, 130, where it'd go parabolic and it'd pull back 20, 30%, it'd grind back up, and it was just a fluid mover. And then when Friday came along, the stock, like it spiked up out the open, went parabolic, dropped all the way to low day, kind of came back, grinded. The only thing that was very clean on it was the breakouts. Like if you go back and study HKD, like the breakouts over 60, the breakout over 250, the breakout over 450, the breakout over 1,000, you'll see each time like it went straight up. And the halt risk was the thing that really kept me out of that. And as it kept going up and up, just looking at the market cap valuation, seeing it be, 100 billion, 300 billion, 400 billion dollars, and be like a top 10 tech stock. So that was something that we've never seen before, and it did get me for my biggest loss ever. And just definitely something to pay attention to next time was how like the volume was dissipating and how it became less and less of like a move. Like the more and more it moved, you realized how fabricated and how much of a scam it was. And the borrow rate to swing it, you just couldn't really do anything with it, not even take a swing position because it was going up 100% every day. So I took probably like 5 or 6 losses on it combined, and it added up to my new worst loss on it. And I lost about like a month and a half of progress. And it's just summer progress. So I got it out of me and still up good on the year. And now I'm just kind of waiting and taking a little bit of a break going into August. August is usually a slow month for me every year, waiting for that fall and winter time where I think things should pick up and we should see some good volume everywhere. And just kind of waiting now for the next OTC craze, since it's been literally a year and a half, or another small cap type move, and kind of readjust the way that I trade it. So it's a never ending learning game, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a number of things to touch on there. I mean, first of all, sorry to hear about that new max loss. That's it's always a bummer to hear. On the bright side, it's interesting And it's great to hear that you're also researching what it did, where you could be better. And I had just finished a interview with Lance Brightstein. He said that's sort of his superpower, which is finding, when he has a red day, going back and researching and finding out what he did wrong and using that to improve his trading game. So like, it's one of those things that I know Nate has said this as well, is like everyone has those big losers, and there have been plenty of big traders that have said the same, which is, you're going to make a lot of money along the way, you're going to lose a lot of money along the way. And fortunate for you, Jack, you do a great job of having your profits so that this one max loss doesn't take you out of the game. So that's always good to hear if there is any bright side to that, which I know for you
Yeah.
probably just sucks all around.
Yeah, definitely. It sucks all around, but um, I guess like I can't be too hard on myself because we've never really seen anything like that to that scale. I think like a complete scam go to $400 billion market cap on like a 6 or 7 day green run. But I wanted to touch on that point there where you talked about like going over your losses, and you can never leave a loss unturned while you're trading. And I think a lot of people make this mistake where they'll take a loss, they'll shut down on the day. I got to get my mind off trading. I got to go, go to the bar with my friends. I got to go do this and like not really think about it. Whereas I think a lot of successful traders, they will sit there and they will review and they will look at every single thing they did. They will look at exactly how much they lost, exactly how much shares they entered at a certain price, where they covered. Whereas some people are just like, F it, like I'm done, I'm out of here. And they won't even like dissect their loss. And for me, like I can't physically move on in my head until I look at seeing exactly what I did and just subconsciously know and also put it on paper about like what I did. And from there, I think that is like really how you learn from your mistakes. And even from the beginning, from HEAR, when you learn from your mistakes, that's how you move on and grow as a trader. Like each big mistake, I always come back and I'm a way better trader. I learned something new and I'm able to really capitalize on the next time something similar happens or whatever it is. Because when you're just winning all the time, you're not really learning anything, right? You're trading, you're making money, you're having a great time, you don't really care what's going on. But when you take that loss, that's when you're up at night, you're thinking, you have to constantly be thinking, and that's when you make the most progression in your trading, in my opinion.
Yeah, and those losses are actually opportunities to improve yourself and your system, right? As a trader.
Yeah, exactly. And you just improve your system, improve your risk management, improve everything, and that's really what's going to make the difference. The next time a plus opportunity comes around, you'll have a lot more experience and kind of know what's going on here.
I wanted to also ask about life for you outside of trading, and this is sort of connected to what you had just mentioned because you had said that you're going to take some time. August tends to be kind of a quiet month for you. So like when you aren't trading, what do you do to get away from the stress of trading?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you know or not, but I do have a girlfriend in the community. Her name's Mariana, or Mari for short, and she's done really well over the last few years. So she always like helps me, takes me away. Like she knows it's been tough for me this last week with HKD, and she came over this morning at 9 and said, "Oh, we're gonna go on a hike." And so we're not at the screens to trade, and she helps me stay centered. So big shout out to her for everything that she does. And we like doing different hobbies, like done a lot of traveling, a lot of skiing, going places, doing some type of activities like sports, like tennis, whatever it is, and hanging out with my friends, going golfing, hunting, fishing, whatever it is, and really just taking your mind off of it and doing some type of other activity that you also enjoy, plus spending time with people that you love. And just that's the best way that I've found to get my mind off trading. It's very hard for me to sit at my house and not want to work. and be at my computer and work, which is very difficult for me. So I really have to like get out and keep myself busy, or I'm going to be thinking about trading and going crazy. So I know that about myself. Um, and yeah, over the last few years, like I was very against everything. Like I didn't even go skiing once in 2020 or 2021 because of how insane the market was. I couldn't waste any energy on anything besides trading, because if I wasted more energy, I felt like I was going to make less. I needed my full focus on trading. Like I said, I didn't really allow myself to have fun. So this year it was all about like having fun, going skiing every weekend, up here in New Hampshire. And then in the summer, it's just traveling, hanging out with friends, golfing, doing other type of different activities. And that's what's been and another thing is weekly massages, I think, is great for getting rid of stress, especially tension up here in your neck and your back, because I feel like a lot of traders have back problems. So I did a lot of stretching also at the beginning of this year just to kind of fix all my back problems. And now my back's a lot better because I was dealing with so much pain every day just from sitting there for the last 2 years and being stressed out. And I was getting sick and all this stuff. So, getting out, exercising, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack. First of all, I think it's awesome to have a support network, and for you, it sounds like you have an amazing support network and a girlfriend who cares about you. I think it's an added bonus for you that she understands trading and the stresses that come along with trading, and she knows how hard it could be to have a big loss and the importance of getting away from the screens when you need to. Hopefully that prevented you from having like a revenge trade that could have been even worse. So that's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that a lot of traders don't like, they have a hard time coming out of it, right? And I have this all the time where you're just into it, you're into the screens, and you feel like nothing else like really matters. Like maybe you'll forget to eat, or maybe you'll forget to do this, or you'll forget to make this email because you're just so like consumed by it, and it's like the only thing on your mind, which also is great at sometimes because you're just right there, and it's the only thing that matters. But other times it hurts you, right? Because you're forgetting to do daily things. And yeah, so my girlfriend definitely helped me with like getting over this loss, as well as talking to some other buddies who have experienced some type of things like this. Because what I think Mari said, like you feel like you have no purpose because you lost so much money, and that really like resonated with me, because yeah, that's exactly how I'm feeling. I feel like crap because I've just lost all this money, and I just feel so dumb. And you feel like you don't have any purpose. You're just showing up and you're just losing all this money in a few days, and you feel like you don't really have a purpose anymore. So you have to get yourself out of that, and you have to dissect a loss and kind of come out of that and make the changes, and realize that sometimes that just happens, especially on the black swan of black swans. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that ticker was a black swan sort of event that we'll remember for years and years and years, and
yeah.
we'll be telling people about this, that particular move for a long time. And yeah, sort of on the topic of trading networks, and you had mentioned talking to some other trading buddies. I'm sure you got a chance to talk to Nate about this particular trade. And I was just kind of curious about you and Nate. Like, how did you get introduced to Nate, and what's that relationship been like for you?
Yeah, so I messaged Nate. Well, I'm out here in New Hampshire, and Nate's also in New Hampshire, and I knew he was in New Hampshire. I've been here for about like a year. I think actually maybe 2 years now. Um, and I was somewhere else, like kind of in a different part of the state for a year or so, but it was just so busy that like I didn't really like know like even try to communicate with Nate, because I was just so busy in 2020 and 21 with the OTC craze. And then he messaged me randomly on Twitter, and he asked me to do help him out with Traders for a Cause last year. So I went ahead and I did that, talked to him for a little bit at Traders for a Cause, and then I messaged him again, maybe in like March of this year. Like this is like maybe what, 4 or 5, 6 months after, and I asked him a question, and he responded, and then he was like, "Oh, yeah, where do you live again in New Hampshire?" And I was like, "Oh, here, etc. XYZ." He's like, "Oh, I'm here, XYZ," and then we realized that like we're right next to each other basically. And the next day, I was trading with him, and we've just built a really good relationship from there. He's a great guy, and he's very open, and he doesn't really mind like anything too much. Like if I've been bringing some of my friends there, I bring my girlfriend to trade, and we all just have a great time, make a lot of jokes. And it's been very helpful to have another trader that that's bigger than me. And it's always great to meet those kind of traders because they're so rare. And I'm usually used to like helping other people, but for Nate to help me and kind of see where he stands and be next to somebody who is that person who can be consistent 80% of the time on small cap days. So I've been learning from him. It's very difficult for me to keep up. Like I said, it's very hard for me to trade these small caps on a consistent basis every single day because I just don't get a feel for the action. But I'd say through trading with him, I'm able to kind of understand some of these funky price actions, these wicks, these stuffs, exchanges, these swings, and the fundamentals as well. So really been learning a lot and just trying to take my time in understanding everything from him. And it's been great. And we've been hanging out, going to the lake, going on the boat, have a bunch of different buddies come over and just really hang out and have a good time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you two got to connect. I can't think of like a better mentor to have, especially where that's right next to you than Nate. So that's really cool. And I saw that you guys got to trade together in the office, and you brought your chair, and
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's great, man. That's really great.
Yeah,
So
let me talk about the chair for a second since I
I was going to
know.
ask you about the chair. Can we get some information about the chair?
Yeah, you can get some information on the chair. Let me show you here.
There it is. There's the
There's the
chair.
chair right
There
there.
it is.
And yeah, I bring it over to Nate's office probably like 75% of the time. Sometimes I'm too lazy and I want to drive my sports car and I don't want to drive my SUV. So I won't bring it. But when I go and I know it's going to be an active trading day, like I'll bring this chair. And it's been a really good chair to me. Whereas I've tried different chairs throughout, like I have a bunch of different chairs all around the office here, and this has been the one that has really helped me with some of my back pain, and I just stick with it. You know what I mean? And it's the lucky chair. So Nate always gives me a hard time when I walk into the office with it, but I love it too much to get a new one or buy another same one. So it's my lucky chair right here.
Awesome. I mean, yeah, I sort of figured there was probably an ergonomic component to why you used it because you had mentioned previously that yeah you like getting massages and making sure that your neck is doing better than it was. So if this chair makes you feel good and you trade well with it, may as well stick with what works.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So, Jack, we got a number of questions from the trading community via Twitter. A lot of people were excited that we were going to get to talk and have this interview. So, I'd love to be able to ask their questions directly to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So, the first question is about stock choice and scan. The question is, how do you scan for stocks every morning? What are you looking for? What setups do you look for during that time?
A lot of my trading comes from like previous day movers. So I don't really do a lot of scanning during the pre-market. Like I'll do my scanning at night and kind of have an idea of what I want to trade already going into the day. I feel like if you just kind of pick what's on the scan at the open, like you have kind of less an idea of what's going on. Whereas if you can prepare the night before, you have the levels, you have the fundamentals, you have everything kind of already mapped out. So those are the trades I do best on. If I just pick something up at the open, I usually don't trade it too well.
Okay, great. And the next question is about psychology and scaling size. The question is
Okay.
the question is how do you mentally deal with scaling size as you progress towards bigger goals?
Um, so I would just say like eventually like, you kind of get to a point, I'd say, where you can wire out a good chunk of your money, and that money like you're just like, oh, I just go to the grocery store and I spend money on this, or I buy this and that, and you realize that you don't really like the money isn't what I was going after in the beginning. Like the money is just like a byproduct, and it's nice because it gives me freedom. And then other than that, it's just a number on a screen, right? And as your account gets bigger, you want to have a better and more perfect trade, and you want to just excel and be the best version of yourself. Whereas the money just doesn't really matter as much if you kind of see what I'm saying. It's just a number on a screen. It's a video game. I treat it like that. And it's not like I have, $30,000 in front of me, and like I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, like I look at $30,000 worth of money, and I think about what I could have done with that. I just kind of if I lose it, I lose it. As long as it's within my plan, I'm okay with it. And I realized that the same strategy has built me up to where I am now. And if I take a few losses in a row, you just got to reset, refresh, and see what you're doing, and then make adjustments from there. And that's kind of how I go about it.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like what you're saying is trust the process and don't worry too much about bigger size and a bigger number, whether that's, unrealized loss or gain. You're more focused on the process of what got you there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up. Like if I'm up or down a certain amount on a specific trade, I'm not really thinking like I don't want this to go. I have to lock this in because of the certain money I'm up or down. I'm looking at the chart, and whatever the chart's doing to me, it's like, all right, if it gets underneath or over this level, like I'm gonna have to cut my losses or take the position off because this is the level that's key. Same thing with like a trade. Like if something starts working really well, you just keep letting it work until it reaches a point where you're like, okay, now it's not working, so it's time to get out, and I'm taking my profits. So I think a lot of people, if they're struggling with that, it is very hard to do in the beginning because you see a certain like $300, you're like, oh, I can do this with that, or I can do that. But as you mature as a trader and as you keep trading, you get so kind of numb to that because you're going to see so much fluctuation in money over a 3 to 5 year, 10-year career, 2 decades. You're going to see so much fluctuation, and your brain just kind of gets used to it, and it understands that I'm just going to follow the process, and I'm going to trust my process because it has proven to me over the years that it's a data-driven, profitable system.
Excellent. I think that's really helpful. Thanks. Another question we got was about psychology and personality. The question is, how important is personality in trading? Are there personality types that are more conducive to success or others which are not?
Okay. I'd say yes, definitely personality type has a big part of it. And I'd say the most successful traders that I see, they they have a very competitive nature to themselves, right? It's not really against others. Like it's not like, oh, I'm better than you. It's more of like they want to be the best version of themselves, and they want to prove to themselves that they can do this. And that's kind of what I see. And also like it's people that are going to show up on time. It's people that are going to like I said, put in the extra hours. They're not just going to kind of go like, ah. And also Nate's an outlier here, but I think people that don't have families and they can focus more on trading it have are better traders, because if you have family and you have to take the kids here, take the kids there, kind of do this for your wife, do all these things, and also have another job. It's taking your focus off of trading. And it's a lot harder to be really, really good at something. But if you can just dive in 100% on it, and you have that personality type where you're very competitive with yourself and you want to be the best version of yourself, I see those type of traders do the best. And also people that, I think people that have like a casino type background, they are okay traders. Like they're pretty good traders sometimes. But they don't really have the potential to go that next level, I don't think, because they still view the money differently. Because if they're gambling, playing blackjack or whatever it is, or poker, I see them like never really excel themselves to have those like 6-figure trades. Like they're a good mid 5-figure trader, but they just kind of that casino background, I feel like holds them back a little bit. And then I feel like the people that aren't really successful are like people who drink all the time, people who just do the same thing over and over again. They don't learn from their losses, and they're not disciplined. They don't show up on time. They're kind of all over the place. But the people who just really, really want it and who are fresh into the game, they don't have a lot of baggage behind their lives with whatever it is, jobs and previous backgrounds in different fields. If you're super fresh to the game, I really feel like you can build yourself up and really make yourself into a great trader.
Excellent. I think that's an interesting analysis. Absolutely. The next question we got was about trader networking. The question is, so the traders that you became close to early in your career, were their setups all similar to yours, or were they different? And how did you all help each other out along the way?
Yeah, so there's definitely so many traders that I've networked with along the way. Like I probably have like 50 to 100 friends that I speak with pretty closely. And I would say that is probably one of the best attributes that I have. Also, it's a great attribute that Nate has because he has so many people around him that feed him information, and he just goes and he trades. And I'm somewhat similar to that, but I'm, like I said, he's very good at small caps. I'm better at OTCs. And I would say that you have all these people around you and they kind of show you what they're doing, and just being very adaptive to learning and being open and seeing how everybody does it. And then you see what people do good, see what people do bad, and you try to just take what they do good and implement into your trading, and take what they do bad and kind of take a lesson out of it, even though it's hard. But it kind of will reiterate the lesson. If you make the same mistake, you'll be like, oh, this person did that, I did that, I made the mistake. It's kind of a confirmed lesson. And they're like, my patterns and my trading strategies, were very similar to a lot of my friends. But I would say like I wasn't even necessarily like it took me 20 months to have my first consistent profitable month. And I'd say that like just learning from all these people really helped me. Like I wasn't necessarily the smartest ever or the most data driven, and just kind of watching people and talking to people is where I learned the most information from. And it's just key to me that they're transparent with everything, because if you have somebody out there that isn't super transparent, then it's going to be very difficult to learn, because you're only going to see certain things, and it's going to impact your thinking on what you take from them.
Interesting. Yeah, that's helpful. I think from the sound of it, you can really compound your learning and speed up the learning process if you have a group of people who are all transparent and sharing what they're learning with one another.
Mm-hmm. Because it's almost like you're learning like double, triple, quadruple, 5, 10 times as quickly than if you're just kind of sitting there by yourself and learning through your trading. Because like I said earlier, the best lessons you learn are through trading mistakes and just trading in general, sitting there and watching what happens. And that's really what you kind of like take away. It's like almost like college, right? Where you go to college or you study YouTube videos on the market and you have that general training wheel type foundation. But once you get that job out of college, like you have to learn what the job is and how to do it. And same thing with trading. Like once you actually get and you start trading, that's where the majority of the learning comes from, but you still have that background and training wheel type foundation that you learn from.
Awesome. So we have another question, and it's about psychology. The question is, what's one mental trick or hack that you've used to optimize your trading performance?
That's a good question. I'd say the number one thing that I do that is somewhat different than a lot of traders I know is keep track of your performance based on strategy, right? A lot of people out there, they'll be like, I'm going to track a certain strategy and see how it trades. Like they're tracking like the average high of the day, the low of the day, the previous close, the flow, the volume rotation, blah, blah, blah. And for me, it's not about any of that stuff. Like it's good to know that stuff, but you can only do so much with it. And then I think it comes down to like, what is your personality type and where are you going to fit into that trading? And I think tracking those patterns are really good for you. Like if you just like right from the beginning, I was tracking OTC versus small cap, and I immediately saw my win percent and my risk to reward was way better on OTC than in small cap. And that's what I went with. And then you get even deeper into specific patterns, specific time of days. How do you trade on swing trades intraday? And you keep track of everything. And then you see what you're good at, what you're bad at. And then from there, you adjust your risk. So it's okay to have something that's a B or C setup and still trade it. I think you can still trade that kind of stuff, especially if you're learning, because it will keep you in the game, keep you in tune with the market. And then you know what your A plus is, so you can size into it and you can make that majority of your profits on that trade. So that's how you're able to know what your A plus is.
That's really helpful. Yeah, it sounds like you're talking about having metrics for your actual setups as well, right?
Yeah. So what I was saying was like look at the data based on what the strategy is shown based on the data, but then also see how you trade it and keep track of that data. So what's your win percent? What's your average win, average loss, average percent gain, average percent loss, all that stuff. And also you can see what time of year are you doing good at, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's key to know to differentiate your trading setups and what to size on.
Yeah, that's great. And are you doing this all on like yourself through Excel, or are you using software like TraderView or something like that?
Yeah, I have an Excel where I'll post my trades on my Excel every single day. And then like you have your trade, right? You have your entry, exit, win, how much you made, lost, percent gain, and then I'll have what type of strategy was I trading. And then at the end of the month, I'll go through and I'll copy that trade. If it's a breakout, first red day, whatever it is, you copy the breakout, you put it into a separate Excel, and then you just get a list of all of the same trading strategies. And then you keep a bigger tab where you see everything kind of lined up, and you'll see exactly where you're making money, where you're losing money. And if you're a beginner trader that's closer to PDT, I would only focus on what you're good at and then expand from there. And then once you expand and get more and more, you can throw some stuff out that really isn't making you anything. And then if you're still making a little bit, you can trade those, but less risk. And then what you're making the most on, you realize that has to be your focus, and you have to scale size into that when that setup comes along.
That's excellent. Very helpful. Thank you, Jack. And we got one last question.
Okay.
It's about playbook and strategy. What are your key elements when adding a strategy or a play to your playbook? For example, are you looking at chart setup, entry, exit? And when you're looking at strategy, do you consider elements such as the catalyst and the market cap?
Okay, so I'll answer the first question, which is how do I add strategies to a playbook? And I think it really comes from just watching other traders, right? So if I keep seeing the same guy keep on making money on the same setup, the same setup, the same setup, and I keep seeing the stock, whether it's fading 20% or he's taking some type of move, or she, and that's when I get interested. And I'm like, wow, there's really something here. And then I'll dive deeper and see how I can kind of start trading that same setup. And that's kind of what happened this year with a lot of the China IPOs is I had no clue what that setup was, right? And I see a few people start making huge money on this. I was like, what the hell's going on? I've never heard of this before. So then I dive deep into it. I try to ask all the right questions to the people who are making money. And then I set myself up for this year, which is the main source of my income this year, which I had no clue what it was last year. And you just kind of see what's working and what's not working. And like I said, you're keeping track of it. So that's how I go about it, just viewing other traders that are my friends, seeing how they're making money. You can watch Nate in the room, see what he's making money on, see if he's buying SPY puts and the SPY puts keep ripping on him every day and he's losing, then you know not to do that. But if you see him, he's shorting this specific gapper and it's fading and he's making money on these fades every day or whatever it is, or he's going long these swings with wicks on the bottom and he keeps making money, then you realize that, oh, there's the strategy right there. And then you kind of just you look at it and see how you could have traded and how you can find a way to fit in there. And then the second part, do you look at market caps and what was it, fundamentals and catalysts?
Yep.
I'd say the most important one to me out of all those is probably like the market cap. I like trading stuff that has a particularly thicker float where you're able to get in and out pretty much within a penny or 2 or 3 of the spread, and stuff like HKD, which I just lost big on, where the spread's huge and it has a very low market or has a low float and there's not a lot of volume. I tend to lose a lot more on those because you just get into this situation where you're taking five times what you were planning to lose. And then you do that a few times and you're down, 20, 30, 40 times what you initially wanted to risk on this thing. And that's where the biggest losses for me come. And the best gains for me over the stats that I tracked, like, are the very thick trades, like something like Fannie Mae on OTC. Like if you see that stock trade, you see how thick that float is. Something like a Mullen, something like a CEI, where it has these very, very thick floats and you're able to execute shares, even like a SIGA, AMC. And these are the best traders for me. So I do care about market cap and how it trades like that. And if I trade a low float, if it's just going to like squeeze or dump a couple bucks a share like that, I feel a lot harder to manage risk.
So I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to everybody who asked questions on Twitter. Hopefully we got to answer your question. And if not, we'll just have to get Jack back and do another interview. So Jack, I'd love to be able to go through just a lightning round questions, quick answers, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Cool. So the first question is, what's one piece of trading advice that you would give yourself back when you first started that you now know?
Start small and don't expect a lot.
And do you favor any specific technical indicators for your charts?
VWAP.
What's one of your trading milestones that you've been able to accomplish?
I'd say 10 million in profits.
What has been the biggest lesson for you in trading so far?
You are what you think you are in your head. So if you think that you can only make a few hundred a day every single day, then that's where you're going to stay at. But as I started doing better, I kept saying like I can do this, like I can do this. And I think that lesson really has helped me trade to my best potential through telling myself that you can do this and it is achievable and it's not out of the picture.
That's very powerful. Great answer. How many stocks do you focus on trading each day?
I'd probably say like 1, 2, 3. If it's a hot day, maybe like 5, 6, 7. Which I'm trying to narrow that down right now and just focus on less and less setups, because I think that focusing on too many, it kind of makes me mess up my other trades. Like if I have a good trade on, I mess up another one. It'll make me not trade that one I should have been in as good as I should have. So that's something I'm working on now. But also, it's nice to spread the risk around, like Nate talks about. So I'm just trying to figure out my nice happy medium where I'm going to focus on the setups that I'm very familiar with and try to not trade those little ones and waste mental capital on them.
What would you say is your biggest strength as a trader?
Probably networking.
And do you tend to trade from opening bell to closing bell, or do you tend to focus on a particular time of day to do your trading?
Depends on the day. If it's a slower day, just the first few couple hours. Then by lunchtime, I like to get out of there. Then check back later. Check my phone during the day. But I won't be trading all day. And then if it's a hotter period, I'll probably be there all day. Depends what the market's offering.
What's one area that you would like to grow as a trader?
The area I've always been working on, small caps, daily small caps.
For anybody listening, what is the best way to contact you or get a hold of you?
You can contact me by just shooting me over something on Twitter, tagging me on a mention, and I'll be sure to check it out.
Great. That's all the questions I had for you, Jack.
Sweet. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. And I know we had a lengthy conversation today. I think it'll be really helpful for the trading community. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time, Jack.
Yeah, thank you. It's really fun.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. Thanks for watching.